Hi y'all, Whiny RN here, pun intended. So in my first video I kind of alluded to the awful year that I have had, and I know that many other people have had much worse years than I have, but for me, I just had to face a lot of stuff that I had not encountered before, as I'm sure many of you had. And so I just wanted to get all that out of my system. So we all know about COVID. Kind of started last February, March, where we started locking down. I'm an essential worker. I got to work, which was great because we didn't have any type of financial hardship involved with that. So I'm very thankful for that. At the same time, I was kind of super bitter about the people who got to stay home and make about the same amount of money that I was making, still having to go to work every day and risk getting COVID and all of that good stuff. I really wasn't too worried about COVID in the beginning. I just, from the get-go, said, you know, I'm really not worried about it for me or my kids. I'm just afraid I could catch it and give it to my parents and kill them, right? Turns out I should have been worried about COVID for myself, but that's a whole nother video. So I got to keep working through COVID, through all the changes, through my kids coming home and having to homeschool, and that was a ride. I have 3 very different children, and luckily the high school was super great in that they just kind of gave everybody these are the important assignments you need to get done, and then once they finished them, they were done with school. So that was awesome for my oldest kid. My middle kid kept telling me he was doing his work, and then like the last week of school, his teachers were all contacting me being like, hey, your kid hasn't done shit. Like, does he want to pass or what's the deal? So that was a mad scramble to get him through his work and get him passing. And my daughter, who was very type A and very much gets straight A's and you know, never falls behind and was really on top of things, was just in tears all the time because she had trouble with the online format and she didn't want to do the Zoom things because people could see her face and that was weird, and so that was something in itself. So we got through that, and then last July, and we're coming up on the anniversary now, but last July my little brother, my baby brother, passed away, not from COVID. And so that was kind of really the beginning of my awful year, was getting that phone call. And then later on in the year, the whole family came down with COVID. And again, that's another video. But I, long story short, ended up getting long COVID and was very sick for about 5 months. So that was rough. And then when I was kind of starting to feel better, my oldest son got in a quad accident and broke his neck and his nose and had a pretty severe concussion and some head lacerations, and got life flighted to, we're in North Idaho, he got life flighted to Spokane, Washington, to the Children's Hospital there, and we spent 4 days there. That was really, really scary. Luckily, he is okay. His fracture in his C2 vertebrae was stable enough that he didn't need surgery, but he has been in a C-collar for the last 11 weeks now. And Monday we get to go and hopefully get it off. He's getting a repeat CT scan this week, and then we're going to the neurosurgeon and hopefully getting the all clear to come off of the C-collar and then find out whether he needs surgery to repair his nose that he still can't breathe through. So that was big, exciting stuff happening. And about a week after we got home from the hospital with him, we got a phone call from my middle son's school that he had been caught with a jabbing pen. For those that don't know, and I didn't know, a jabbing pen is like a vape pen, but you put THC oil in it instead of nicotine. And for those of you who are familiar with Idaho, you know that marijuana is super duper illegal here. So he ended up with criminal charges. He's 15, and so we got to deal with that. And we just actually went for sentencing this last week prior to that, we'd had to go to court. He pled guilty. We opted not to get an attorney. We wanted him to really be, learn his lesson from this mistake that he made and face the consequences. And so we went to court. He pled guilty. We met with probation and had a family interview and had to fill out this massive packet of background information for the entire family. That interview itself took 2 hours with the probation officer. It was very, very thorough. And then we went for sentencing this last week, and he actually ended up not receiving jail time, which is funny because when we had first gone to court and he'd pled guilty, we were basically told he's going to have to do 2 days detention time in a juvenile facility no matter what. Like, that is the standard. There's no way getting out of it. Doesn't matter if you hire an attorney, doesn't matter what you do. Kids always have to do that 2-day minimum, and then they get community service and some type of probation for like 1 to 3 years, depending on each individual case. So we went for sentencing, and I guess the judge had mercy on us because he realized we'd had a really rough kind of month with our oldest son, and how that had affected our middle son, and kind of led him to try the THC in the first place to help ease some anxiety he was having because of our oldest son's accident. And so because of that, he just gave him community service and 1 year of probation. And we really like the probation officer. I think this might actually be a really good thing for him. So, sometimes there are blessings in disguise, and thank God my kid's super stupid and got caught right away before it became a habitual problem or affected his schoolwork or anything else. So, we're thankful for that, but, it was still a lot of stress on my plate, especially leading up to going to court and having to face sentencing. And I got to sit in the defendant box with my kid because, he's a minor. So that was super fun. And then my daughter, who is a competitive gymnast, yay, Alyssa, yay, step gym. She injured herself dismounting off the high bar. She landed, I guess, like half on the mat, half off the mat, and rolled her ankle. And, excuse me, after rolling her ankle, she then got back up and continued to finish her workout. And, sorry, as a result of that, and I don't know if she initially tore her 2 ligaments in her foot and then just kept working out on them, or if she just partially injured and then made it worse by continuing to work out on that injured ankle, or what. But she tore 2 ligaments in her ankle, and she's in a boot and on crutches. She's been in a boot and on crutches for about a month now, and we recently got word from her coaches that she is being demoted down to a lower level, just because she is going to kind of lose some of her skills and a lot of her strength from this injury, since she can't really practice and work out the way that she needs to be at the top of her game. So that was really devastating. She was just in tears and really upset, and she has her whole identity is wrapped around being a gymnast. And so watching her just be so devastated was really hard as a mom, to not be able to make that pain go away for her. And she actually decided to go ahead and withdraw from gymnastics at this time. She wouldn't be getting to compete with her regular team. And in addition to that, she's going into 8th grade, and as her workload at school has gotten increasingly more difficult and more complex and requiring more projects and things like that, she's had a hard time juggling both hours and hours at gymnastics every week on top of school. And also, since we live out in the middle of nowhere, we commute an hour each way to get to gymnastics, and so she ends up missing several of her classes a couple times a week just to attend practices. So it's just it was kind of getting to that time anyway, so that may actually be a blessing in disguise as well, that it kind of forced her to have to take a step back from that and concentrate more on school, and maybe find some sort of after school activity that she can do that won't take up quite as much time and make her miss her classes as stuff is getting more complex. So anyways, that has kind of been my year. In addition to that, my my father, who had a very, very aggressive form of prostate cancer. It was stage 4 when it was diagnosed. His cancer is returning, so he is starting chemotherapy again on Monday, and hopefully they can get that back under control and get him a few more years with us. And so yeah, there's a lot on my plate. I am finally back at work full-time. I just started back at work full-time in June, so I've been at it for about a month. So, you know, I'm hoping things are starting to kind of look up. My brother's anniversary of his death is coming up on July 19th, and I'm kind of hoping that will be a new start. You know, that's kind of when the shit really hit the fan for me. So I'm hoping that that anniversary rolling around will be like a refresh. So I'm hoping, praying for a wonderful upcoming year. How about you guys? What have you been dealing with in the last year? I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment, subscribe, shoot me a video back, and I will talk to you all soon.